Anxiety, a crippling emotion and feeling almost all of us experience or have experienced. It brings out the worst in someone and is debilitating to deal with. That's why, in this video today, we will list 15 Stoic lessons in order to conquer anxiety and rewrite the negative effects it puts on us. Before we start this video, I would like to say thank you for watching, and don't forget to like. And if you are watching this and not subscribed, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell for more life-changing Stoic content. Number 1. Let go of perfectionism. Demanding perfection from yourself, others, and the world breeds inevitable disappointment and distress when reality never aligns fully with expectations. Embrace imperfection. Notice when anxiety arises from rigidly requiring specific outcomes, timelines, behaviors, or appearances. The desire for perfect order and certainty causes suffering. Make peace with messiness and unpredictability as normal. Release the need to control or micromanage each detail. Progress happens in fits and starts, not linear perfection. Focus more on effort than outcomes. Measure yourself and others with compassion, not harsh judgment. Allow things to unfold at their own pace and rhythm rather than forcing. Adapt flexibly as needed without requiring definite plans. Breathe through discomfort with the unknown. Perfection exists nowhere except in spiritual ideals. Of course, maintain high standards and continue improving. But anxiously demanding flawlessness only sabotages joy. Progress, don't perfect. Let go of idealism to embrace each imperfect now pragmatically. The path meanders beautifully. Number 2. Don't tie your self-worth to external achievements. Basing self-esteem on precarious things like status, reputation, and accolades breeds anxiety. Your value resides within. Notice when feelings of anxiety or inadequacy stem from measuring your worth by material success, fame, appearance, or others' opinions. Tune inward instead to your core essence beyond circumstances. You needn't prove yourself constantly or cling to validating trophies to verify merit. Neither condemn yourself as worthless when failing by worldly marks. You remain inherently worthy. Focus on aligning actions with your values and cultivating virtue, wisdom, courage, compassion. Internal evolution brings self-respect and resilience, not external metrics. Of course, strive ambitiously to share your gifts and make a difference, but release anxious demand for validation through what you accomplish. Your being deserves love, not just your doing. Resting in your inherent dignity frees you from fears of not being enough that drive toxic perfectionism and people-pleasing. Base your sense of okayness on presence, not productivity. Just be, just breathe. Number 3, limit social media use. While social platforms have benefits, excessive use breeds anxiety by facilitating unhealthy social comparison. Curate your use wisely. Take notice if you feel anxious, depressed, or inadequate after scrolling social media and seeing others' carefully curated highlights reels. Remember, you are comparing your behind the scenes to their public facade. Set limits around using social media mindfully rather than compulsively killing time. Unfollow accounts that trigger envy or poor self-image rather than inspiration. Take periodic social media Sabbaths. Expand your sphere beyond the virtual world. Spend time in nature, reading books, engaging in projects, and in-person interactions to nourish you. Keep online connection in balance with real life. Of course, leverage social platforms positively for learning and community. But avoid passive, endless scrolling that keeps you comparing yourself to impossible ideals. Use social media, don't let it use you. When you decrease anxiety-provoking comparisons, you reclaim power to define success on your own terms. Base your self-worth on aligning with deeper values, not public approval. Your path is unique. Number 4, simplify your life. Cluttered spaces and schedules quickly overload mental bandwidth, creating a fertile ground for anxiety to take root. Streamline wisely. Take inventory of possessions, commitments, and daily activities that cause more stress than joy. Consider downsizing clutter, saying no to requests that deplete you, and paring down obligations. Make judicious cuts to tangibly reduce chaos, unsubscribing from newsletters, consolidating overloaded schedules, donating unused items. Clear your space and calendar. Of course, moderation is key. Some variety and recreation energizes oneself, but many of life's complications are optional burdens. Eliminate sources of excess strain so you can focus on what matters most. As Epicurus advised, do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not. Remember that what you now have was once among the things you only hoped for. Savor and care for the essentials you already possess. Decluttering and streamlining creates peace of mind. Anxiety loses steam when you tame the unnecessary madness. Keep your life sustainably simple. Breathe easier as burdens lift. Number 5. Don't believe every worrying thought. Our thinking easily becomes clouded by fear, false assumptions, and cognitive distortions. Thoughts often masquerade as facts when they are just opinions. Notice when you treat every worrisome thought as absolute truth. I will lose this job and end up destitute, or my headache means I have a brain tumor. Examine thoughts objectively rather than blindly believing them. Ask yourself questions to discern fact from fiction. Is this catastrophic thought exaggerating the negative while ignoring the positive? What evidence supports versus contradicts this worry? How might I view this concern differently? Of course, take reasonable precautions where appropriate, but avoid letting subjective thoughts whip up exaggerated worst-case scenarios that fuel panic. Retain perspective. Remember that anxiety inherently distorts perception. Identify and label cognitive distortions like fortune-telling, catastrophizing, and black or white thinking when you observe them. This loosens their power. The mind's judgments and narratives are untrustworthy advisors much of the time. Hold them tentatively rather than clutching anxiously. Just because a thought arises does not make it a fact. Look deeper. Number 6. Make time for reflection each day. Our anxious thoughts compound exponentially when we reactively jump from one responsibility and screen to the next without introspection. But pausing to reflect restores perspective and reduces anxiety's hold. Take 10-15 minutes each morning or evening for reflection away from devices, screens, and other distractions. Write in a journal, meditate, walk in nature, anything that occupies your mind consciously. Use the reflection time to review priorities, acknowledge lessons from the day, appreciate positive moments, and think about what went well. Avoid problem solving, just be present. Make reflection a non-negotiable daily ritual. It breaks momentum of perpetually churning thoughts and reconnects you to your inner wisdom and true priorities. Anxiety fades in presence. Of course, continue taking constructive action to improve challenges. But unplugging regularly prevents anxiety compounding from losing all big-picture perspective. Reflection resets mental chatter. By resting your mind consciously, you realize anxiety is just one passing state, not the totality of your being. It comes like all conditions, but it also goes when observed as a cloud passing by. Reflect on what endures behind it. Number 7. Focus on the moral good, not material goods. Judging success by virtue, wisdom, and character brings much more serenity than measuring by money, status, and possessions that depend on external conditions. Take notice if your anxiety spikes due to things like struggling finances, career setbacks, or losing status. While unpleasant, these don't define your value or capabilities. Avoid exaggerating their importance. Instead, place priority on cultivating timeless virtues like justice, courage, self-discipline, and integrity. How you live means much more than what you own. Your inner riches remain stable despite outer fluctuations. Of course, seek to responsibly improve external conditions too, but without clinging to them for security or self-worth. The sage flourishes by aligning with moral truth, not chasing fleeting treasures. As Seneca wrote, "Cherish moral values, gentleness, and a tranquil mind. Do not let your heart flutter with desire for gold and possessions. The goods of character matter most by far. Anxiety thrives when attached to unstable things. But the kingdom within remains serene for those realizing life's supreme good, dwells in wisdom and virtue, not materials and status. Build your inner fortress." Number 8. Have an attitude of indifferent preference. While desiring or pursuing something passionately, release anxious attachment to it going a certain way. Stay flexible to changing conditions. For example, you may prefer to keep your job, win a competition, or go on a trip. But if they don't happen, your well-being remains intact. You did what you could. Accept results non-reactively. Make clear values-based choices, but without demanding life cater to your desires. Have wise ambition, but avoid crushing disappointment when hopes don't pan out. Equanimity weathers all seasons. Take reasonable action in alignment with achieving your aims without fixation on guaranteeing particular results. End outcomes often remain outside your control. Focus on diligent process. Cultivating non-reactive preferences reduces anxiety over trying to force on certain situations. Work hard but stay unattached to specific fruits of labor. Have courage and wisdom to handle whatever arises with flexibility and poise. As Epictetus said, "Do not seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will. Then your life will flow well. Want wisely, expect little, live grandly." Number 9. Find humor in difficult situations. Laughing at the absurdities and ironies you encounter gives you more power over problems. Don't lose your sense of humor. When you start taking yourself in stressful situations too seriously, pause. Look for angles from which you can view circumstances in a more amusing light. Search for irony or levity. Share funny observations related to challenges with trusted others also willing to laugh through hard times. Comedy builds connection and resilience, but avoid mean humor that harms. Of course, have compassion for very real suffering too, including your own. But momentary absurdity and playfulness restore mental flexibility to deal with struggles creatively. Staying lighthearted diffuses anxiety so you don't drown in seriousness. Laughter in trying times is medicine for the soul. Humor gives you perspective and breathing room to cope productively. Staying playful allows you to dance with life's difficulties fluidly. Laugh more. Number 10. Practice delayed gratification. Notice where you tend to seek immediate gratification when stressed, at the expense of your long-term well-being. Binge eating, impulsive purchases, procrastination. Pause rather than mindlessly indulging. When you get the urge to alleviate anxiety through quick fixes, resist reacting automatically. Breathe through the impulse without acting. Let cravings pass, discomfort fades. With practice, you strengthen ability to tolerate uncertainty and anxiety in the short term to fulfill greater priorities. Moderation over excess gives lasting rather than fleeting relief. Of course, treat yourself and rest in healthy moderation too. The key is responding thoughtfully rather than impulsively when facing anxiety. Patience builds wisdom and grit to weather inner storms. As Seneca stated, "How far beyond these plebes am I? I may fall, but I will fall fighting and defiant. Let my sufferings give me confidence, and my confidence perseverance. Withstand and prevail." Number 11. Forgive yourself and others. Holding on to anger often leads to chronic anxiety, but letting go brings peace of mind. Even if mistreated, avoid brewing on how others did you wrong or penance they owe. Wish them well silently instead for their own healing. For minor slights, release them fully. Be compassionate to yourself too if you made mistakes. Take constructive lessons without berating yourself. We are all imperfect and learning. Growth happens gently, not through self-flagellation. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Releasing grudges while treating even opponents with dignity protects your spirit. Few things breed more anxiety than clinging to bitterness. Of course, take prudent actions to prevent further harm where needed. But anxiety skews perception, often making past wounds seem bigger than they were. Look objectively when possible. Forgive smaller trespasses. Focus energy on positive goals and giving rather than reliving old violations. The present awaits your full presence and contribution. Anxiety dissolves when you let go of the past with wisdom and maturity. Number 12. Exercise regularly. Physical movement produces neurotransmitters and neurotrophic factors that calm the mind. Make it a priority. Aim for at least 30 minutes per day of heart-elevating exercise like brisk walking, swimming, running, cycling, dancing, sports. Move in ways enjoyable so you stick with it. Strength training also benefits the nervous system by releasing tension and aggression. Let the gym be a constructive arena to vent anxiety and repattern the mind toward empowerment. Make exercise a habit by scheduling it and allowing flexibility if you miss sessions. Any movement counts. Even light activity elevates mood, but greater exertion compounds benefit exponentially. Of course, proper sleep, nutrition, and socializing also support mental health. But few interventions compare to exercise for its profound, anxiety-relieving and focus-enhancing effects. Our minds thrive when our body moves. As Seneca said, mens sana in corpore sano, a sound mind in a sound body. Vigorous physical training reinforces strength of will and tranquility of mind. Keep your body energetically vibrant. Number 13. Maintain meaningful connections with others. It's tempting to isolate when anxious, but we are social beings who thrive through authentic relationships. Make time each day for uplifting interactions, calls with supportive loved ones, engaging conversations, and community service. Nurture connections that inspire growth. Open up judiciously to trusted friends and family about your struggles. Shared vulnerability builds intimacy and emotional resilience. We all face trials. You needn't endure alone. Limit time with toxic relationships that breed drama, excessive complaining, or pessimism. Surround yourself more with those who uplift your spirit. Of course, spend reflective time alone too. Solitude and nature have restorative benefits, but avoid excessive isolation. Stay anchored in fellowship and contribution to something beyond yourself. As Seneca wrote, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for a kindness." Social bonds are powerful antidotes to anxiety. Have courage to connect. Number 14. Be wary of perfectionism and people-pleasing. Set boundaries to uphold values while managing expectations compassionately. Reflect on when anxiety arises from pressure to meet unrealistic standards. Go beyond your limits out of guilt, or chase others' endless approval. Then reset expectations to be reasonable. Striving for excellence has merits, but perfectionism freezes you in self-criticism, over-analysis, and shame for inevitable flaws. Temper ambitions with self-compassion. Progress, don't perfect. Likewise, help others out of authentic care, not just appeasing them. Consider their needs and yours equally. Follow your inner compass on when to say yes or no gracefully. Stand firm if others demand constant overextending or emotional caretaking from you. Kindness has limits too. Honor both parties' humanity. Find balance. As Marcus Aurelius stated, our life is what our thoughts make it. Anxiety comes more from perceived pressures than actual ones. Adjust your mindset to serve wisely while upholding inner peace. Number 15. Remember, all emotions are impermanent. Feelings are ephemeral waves. They rise up intensely but also pass in time. None are permanent fixtures to identify with. Anxiety too shall pass. When gripped by anxious emotions, pause rather than reacting impulsively. Breathe consciously and wait it out with presence. This lowers reactivity while reminding you anxiety's peak intensity can't last. Consider creating space between stimulus and response. Go for a mindful walk between a distressing event and interacting with others affected by it. Emotions morph with time and reflection. Talk to yourself compassionately in the moment. I feel very anxious right now, and that's all right. This is just one passing state. I can handle these temporary sensations. Of course, seek support and take constructive action where needed. But remember, anxiety's power lies mostly in convincing you it will last forever. Recognizing its ephemeral nature helps weather the storm. This too shall pass. Stay anchored in the present. Just as joy emerges from sorrow, calm inevitably follows anxiety once its momentum burns out. Ride the waves, don't drown in them. Stay above water. If you are listening to this, thank you for staying till the end. If you feel any of these Stoic lessons resonated with you today, feel free to start a Stoic discussion in the comments. I welcome Stoic discussions as they are what the great Stoics like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca advised for. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, and if you want more content like this, subscribe and hit the bell. Thank you for watching, and as always, I hope you find peace and serenity in the Stoic ways.